What's up guys, this is Keir from Strength Coach Network. If you've been following the channel, you'll know that recently I uploaded a video about why becoming a strength coach as opposed to a commercial personal trainer might actually be a $300,000 mistake. Over the first 10 years of the career, the personal trainer actually ends up $300,000 ahead of the strength coach in earnings. And I mentioned in that video that if you do decide to go down the route of becoming a strength coach, the smart money, pun intended, is on you working for yourself. And I actually think it makes sense for a strength coach to work for himself or herself throughout their career for a couple of reasons. One is that obviously when you're in the early stages of your career, it's really, really hard to make ends meet. There's going to be a lot of poverty and a lot of hard work as you do the volunteering, the internships, and the GA-ships. So you actually need some form of side income to make ends meet and to allow you to take advantage of that opportunity and take the first step onto the ladder of being a paid up strength coach. Once you get to the mid stage of your career, now it's time to start paying off the debt that you accrued in terms of university, internships, GA-ships, and all that volunteering. And obviously the wages are still gonna not be great when you start out in mid stages of your career, so it makes sense to try and give yourself a little bit of a buffer in terms of side income. And if you get to the point of being a head of department, a high performance manager for a big organization, it makes a lot of sense to have side income because you are actually the most likely to be fired whenever there is a change in head coach. Sometimes you can be unimportant enough to survive when these coaching changes happen. If you're in a senior role, you're going to be first out the door when the firings do happen. And because of the nature of your job, there's only one head in each organization, each department. You're going to be waiting a lot longer before you find the next high-paying opportunity. That's just how it works. And if you're going to be out of the system for 6, 12, 18 months or more, you don't want to be seeing your savings just dwindling day by day. It would be nice to have some kind of side income that you can fall back on. So in today's video, I want to talk about the different steps in the evolution that I've gone through in working for myself on the side as a strength and conditioning coach. I should say, I don't consider myself a financial expert. This is not financial advice. If you want that, go learn from somebody who's qualified to give it. This is just me sharing my experiences, the changes that I've undergone, and what I'm doing now, and you can take it for what it is. I hope you enjoy it. So the first phase I've called the I'll do anything phase. For me, this was when I was interning at London Wasps in 2010. I was doing 12-hour days during my internship, and then I would just grab a few hours each day throughout the week to try and earn some money because this was a full-time unpaid internship. So I was doing a little bit of programming for people online. I was training people in the park, and I was working as a trainer out of other people's facilities, training their clients. And I want to say the average that I was getting around this time was about £15 an hour, which in dollars is maybe $22 an hour. And in today's money, that's not great. It was better in 2010, but when you consider the fact that you have to account for travel, going to, coming from, when you look at the total time span that's taken up to do a 1-hour session, it probably works out to shelf stacking money. So really like minimum wage work and not good at all. It goes without saying that if you're gonna attempt to do the I'll do anything phase, you're probably gonna be young and not have a family. It's just not viable because when you add up the work that you're doing in the internship and you're doing the side work on top, it's like a 15, 16-hour day, and you're not gonna find yourself with a wife or a husband or a family for much longer. Step 2 for me was to try and concentrate on the higher paying activities. So if we take that number of £15 an hour or $15 an hour, and we say, I'm doing 3 extra hours of side work per day, 6 days a week, that works out to roughly $1,000 per month or £1,000 per month, which is good, but really you're probably just gonna cover your rent and some food. You have all these other living expenses like travel, health insurance if you're in the States, any other discretionary spending. You're not gonna be able to make ends meet if you're doing a full-time volunteering position with that kind of income. So what I wanted to do and what I did do was I tried to double down the focus on the activities that were paying me the most amount of money. And for me, that was one-to-one, in-person personal training with my own clients, which at the time paid about £50 an hour, so let's call it $75 an hour. So now my hourly rate has tripled. I can make the same amount of side income as I did before, but from only 5 to 6 hours of personal training a week. Or if I wanted to, I could work the same hours and make a lot more to do a better job of making ends meet. What I personally did was I did 2 to 3 days a week of 2 to 3 clients at a time, blocked out. And I actually did this until I was at least 27. So I was head of academy at Wasps, and I was still training personal training clients on the side to try and boost my earnings. In step 3, what I did was try to remove any kind of overhead or excessive spend of time, energy, or money. Even though personal training pays a much better hourly wage than what we talked about in step 1, there's still annoying things that you have to contend with. So gym rent, travel, clothing, you can't turn up looking like a piece of shit, other expenses, which do add up. Now, I mentioned in step 1 that I was doing online coaching and programming at the time for my friends and guys that I played with, but I decided in this kind of phase of my side income to double down on this and expand things a little bit. And this is because with online coaching, all of that stuff that I just mentioned, those annoyances, they go away. And truthfully, sorry personal trainers, if you pick your clients well, if you have good systems and processes and you know what you're doing, the results are largely comparable to in-person personal training, but at a much lower cost to the consumer. So that's a win for you and a win for them. Now, I mentioned I'm getting that $75 an hour range for personal training, but again, I'm still having to travel there. So if we account for the travel time, probably my hourly rate is going to drop to that kind of like $30 to $40 an hour range, which again is better than £15 an hour, $15 an hour. It's good, but if we can get rid of that, even better. Now, let's say we're doing online coaching. We can put together a 12-week program for a client, probably in 3 hours, and spend maybe another 3 hours over the lifetime of that program, modifying, answering questions, and just generally interacting with the client. We might be able to easily sell that program for $500 or more. That actually works out to about $85 an hour, but we haven't had to do any of the travel or any of the other associated expenses, with the exception of internet and computer, which most people have anyway. And this is what I did for a long time. I actually did this until I was around 32 years of age. The advantage of this is obviously that when you go onto online, you're not limiting yourself to one geographical area where you're having to pick clients that are local to you and can travel to you, or vice versa. The disadvantage of this is you're not limiting yourself to one geographical area. So rather than having some kind of franchise or moat built into your business where other people are going to struggle to steal clients from you, when you're working online, you're competing with every other trainer in the world that has an online business, and there is no barrier to entry to them competing with you like there would be with a brick and mortar business. It also tends to be a little bit harder to market and to sell to people, as opposed to face-to-face selling, which is the common way that it's done in personal training. You have to work a little bit harder to stand out. You have to come up with ways to automate the way that you market and that you sell to people. And quite frankly, it's a lot easier to ask somebody for a lot of money face-to-face. Another disadvantage is that ultimately your earnings are still going to be capped with online coaching. For me, it was about 20 clients that I could juggle at once before I felt the quality start to drop. And having to remind myself, oh, this person's goal is this person's goal is this, and remember the details, their injury history or the modifications and so on. I have heard of other people have upwards of 100 clients at once, but more power to them. I personally couldn't do it. So if we assume that I'm retaining all 20 clients, they're paying me $500 per 12 weeks, that gives us 4 quarters a year, 4 weeks holiday. My earnings are actually capped at about $43,000 a year, which is great, but again, there's still a cap. And if you want to earn more than that, you have to come up with other ways to earn money or to scale up what you're doing. If you have 100 online clients, the cap on your earnings actually goes up to well over $200,000 a year. But as I said, I really don't think once you get to this point that you're going to be a one-man band. You're going to have staff, you're going to have expensive software, systems and processes. So in reality, you're not netting $200,000 a year. But if you live a frugal enough lifestyle, I think once you start to get to this kind of like phase 3, it is possible that you can make just as much, if not more, from your side income than you do from your day job. And that is, to me, an ideal position to be in, because in my mind, I always wanted to be in a position where if the rug was to get pulled, I would get fired, a contract wouldn't get renewed, that I wouldn't feel it whatsoever. So it was at this stage that I felt I started to get some kind of momentum. As good as it is to make money with online coaching, it's more efficient, it's more profitable than in-person personal training. There's still a cap on what you can earn, and there's still this relationship between your input and your output. For most people, if they want to double their income from online coaching, they have to double the number of clients that they're working with. And ultimately, there is a limit to this. There's also a limit to the amount that you can increase your prices. So it's for this reason that in step 4, I tried to adopt more scalable forms of income. And that's why I personally made the switch to digital products and an online education platform. And this is because the key thing with both of these avenues is the marginal cost of replication. Once you've created a digital product or a template, the work is done. All you do is just collect the money, and you can replicate that product an infinite number of times at no cost to you. So you make less money on the front end, but the longer it exists, the more you sell, the more return on investment, the more profitable that product becomes. Likewise with an education platform. It's the same amount of work to you, it's the same cost to you within reason, whether you have 10 members, 100 members, 1,000 members, 10,000 members. And the added advantage of an education platform is that it's an asset that builds over time. It benefits from network effects. The more people there are on the platform, the more connections are made, the more the members actually create content for you, and they're able to provide value to the members. And this was ultimately the form of income that I relied on when I chose to stop doing full-time coaching and focus on my son. At the time that I left coaching, I actually made several times online what I made from my day job. Not because I'm some internet business genius, mostly because the wages were shit in the day job, but like I said, it allowed me to make that transition and not feel it financially whatsoever. It got me a lot of breathing room, and it allowed me to focus on growing the business and not have to worry about, well, where is my next check coming from? Am I going to run out of money? All this kind of stuff. Of course, the downside of marginal cost of replication businesses is that the money comes later. So if you work any other kind of hourly or salaried job, you're getting paid immediately from the beginning, and you're getting paid at a consistent rate. When you're producing digital products, when you're putting together an online platform, a subscription business of some kind, you're going to have to work for a very, very, very long time before the earnings catch up. But it tends to be more of an exponential increase where you're able to earn more and more and more over time. So make sure if you're going to do this that you have the appetite to not earn for quite a long time, and you have the patience to see it through to the point where you will start earning good money. And of course, the downside is you're going to have to take on these things like software, accounting, managing staff, learning how to market yourself, learning how to close sales, all these different things that if you want to earn more money, you have to add these layers of complexity to what you're doing. But it pays a lot of money, and if you want the money, you have to do the work. Step 5 is passive income. Now, I should add that I don't think there's any such thing as truly passive income. Whenever a snake oil salesman talks to people on the internet, it's always talking about passive income where you don't have to do the work. I don't think there's any such thing. All I think there is forms of income that lose momentum more slowly. So if you are a personal trainer and you don't turn up to work, the money gets shut off immediately, or any other job. If you don't turn up, you don't do the work, you don't get paid. But conversely, if you're a landlord and you own property that you're renting out to tenants, you could not hear from that tenant for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and nobody will notice whatsoever unless there's a problem. If you don't turn up for a month, you're not there to collect the money. Yes, people will start to notice, but you'd be surprised at just how little work can be involved in owning and renting property. And this is the direction that I've been trying to go in the last few years, which is to put some of the money that I earned from Japan, money that I'm paid myself from the online business, into real estate for a couple of reasons. One is the leverage of a mortgage means that you're able to get a much bigger return on your investment if you're willing to take on the risk of whether the price of the house or the price of the apartment building goes down. But for example, if you have a mortgage at 4 to 1 and the property goes up at 10% in value, you're actually making 40% on your money while somebody else is paying off the mortgage for you if you have a good tenant. The second, of course, is scale. If you have a manager in place taking care of it and you're willing to pay for their services, it's the same work to you to look after 1 apartment, 5 apartments, 10 apartments, you know, the sky's the limit. There are people out there that own millions of square feet of residential or commercial real estate, and it's the same work to them as it is to much smaller people. And the third reason is that it's a lot closer to being passive income than any other form of income that I've encountered. Like I said, as long as you put in good tenants and you're fair to them in terms of the management and looking after the place, for the most part, they're just going to pay you the money each month. You're not going to have to chase them. It really isn't a lot of work to make good money like that. And of course, the downside to this is you need the money first to be able to do it. There's a barrier to entry in terms of price. Another thing to consider is that you're on the hook. If you have a shitty tenant that doesn't want to pay you money, it is almost impossible to evict them and get the money that they owe you. At best, they're just going to leave, so you're going to be on the hook for that. You can have your house repossessed. You can lose everything. So with the risk comes a reward. If you're willing to take on that risk, the reward is there. Just make sure that you're mitigating for that risk. So to steal from the Tim Ferriss podcast back in the day, career development is just earning the right to deal with bigger and bigger problems. It never gets easier, you just get to deal with harder problems, but with that, you get to make more money. So obviously it is way harder to earn the money, put down, balance a portfolio of real estate than it is to turn up and stack shelves or train somebody one-to-one. But of course the ceiling is removed and the earning potential is much larger with that. And that's the route that I've chosen to go over the last 12 years or so. So I hope that you found this video useful. If there's anything else that you would like me to talk about on this channel, please drop a comment below, and otherwise like, subscribe and share. And thanks very much. Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. Why don't you celebrate by watching more just like it? You can also help us on our quest to placate the algorithm gods by liking, sharing, subscribing and commenting. Thanks.